sit down here.
Rebecca. Give those to Tom as well.
You should. We're going to be recording now, okay? Thank you.
I will keep it next time.
Had a couple months.
Broken leg. Yeah, we're gluing it back together with screws and lights. So he's now a bionic dog. And it cost me about well, he's had his dinner, he's had his water, and I'll give him a pill before he goes. You got it? You need your cane?
No, I'm going to use the back of your chair.
All right, I won't.
Thank you, Sherry. Wow. Yeah, I even have a hurricane. I've been practicing with it today.
So things mending up like they should, and all things gonna be good?
Yeah, the break was behind the ball.
Ooh.
Well, that's the very best break to heal from. And, you know, the ball's here. And it wasn't down here, that angle.
Right up in that top of it.
And my daughter said, Mom, it's the best
All right.
break you could have. If you're gonna have a broken hip, you need a blister from
Let's
this.
go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's regular council meeting of October 4th, 2017. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, the first item is approval of tonight's agenda. Councilors, do you have any changes or anything?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. It's consisting of the council meeting minutes for September 20th, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes for September 11th, a quarterly road department report, and Town of Edgewood financial report for the month of August.
I have some questions on the town of financial report.
Okay?
There were some things that were paid that I didn't see on there, and there were a couple things on there that I didn't know what they were. Do we discuss that now or later?
Let's remove it and go ahead and approve the consent agenda, and then we can discuss that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda, holding back the Town of Edgewood financial report for the month of August.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda with the exception of holding back the Town of Edgewood financial report for the month of August. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Okay, now let's take up a discussion, Town of Edgewood financial report for the month of August.
Okay, I see that we paid the Estancia Valley Economic Development their membership fee. I know we also paid something to the Edgewood Chamber. I don't see anything on here.
On this one here,
Yeah.
I
Is it on
believe-
there?
I believe that check was issued in September.
Okay.
In the amount of?
1,200?
Not the amount that we budgeted.
It's not the amount we budgeted?
No, it is not.
How much did we budget?
We budgeted 2,500.
Okay. The other question I have is Icon Enterprises for a quarterly website fee. Are we no longer with Civic Plus? Are we paying both? What's the status of our website?
Mayor Council, so we are currently still paying both. We're still transitioning over to the new website. Hopefully that'll wrap up here with this within this next month.
And then I saw something on here for WEX, for fuel. What is that, WEX Bank?
WEX, Mayor Council, WEX Bank is our fuel cards, so that is where our road department, police department, and administration use for the fuel for the vehicles.
Okay, so, but they are buying fuel locally?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I do want to revisit the Edgewood Chamber thing next month. And I would also like to, I'll do it during my Anderson Council.
I also have a question about the financial report. On page 2, there are a couple items for an over-limit fee. Can you tell me what that is?
Yes, Mayor Council, so our credit card processing, which is through Wells Fargo Specialty Markets, charged us an essentially over-limit fee. We saw that called in question, if it's over limit, why are you authorizing the purchase? And that was, for whatever reason, it actually all stems from, it was in July, we were over on one of the cards, and one of the cards has a credit limit of $1,000 and the other has one of $3,000. So on the one that was $1,000, we went over by, I want to say, $47, and they charged us this over limit fee. And it's not, according to them, it's not per statement period, so they charged us it in July, and then because we didn't make our payment until, like August 2nd, they didn't clear the bank, so then we got it charged in August again.
Did you negotiate on that?
We're still in that process.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, let's move our accounts from Wells Fargo.
Second?
But unfortunately, we cannot move it to the local credit union, can we?
Mayor Council, no, we cannot move it to the local credit union. We can, however, look at a different bank. The local credit union's charter will not allow them to take on the municipality.
Right, nor realtor trusts, and there's a lot of limitations.
However, there are other banks. Mr. Mayor, I move we approve this month's financial report, the month of August.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve item D, the Town of Edgewood's financial report for the month of August. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Next item is Judge's report for the month of September 2017. Judge White. 2017, Judge White.
Good evening there, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Everybody sitting out there in the audience freezing. Nobody's shaking. I'm better insulated than most people in here, and I think it's kind of cold. I've got just a couple of items I want to go through unless somebody has specific questions about the report. One of the items I want to address actually deals with the report. This is something you don't see every day, and I'm kind of proud of this. Kathy goes through the citations when they come in, and she found one that had been, where an individual had been charged $30 extra, not in the court, but on what's called a penalty assessment. You know how you can sign at the side of the road and say you're guilty and you want to pay your money, send it in. She found one of those that was an error by $30. So the town of Edgewood cut a check to that individual, and I think the guy said something to Kathy like, I never got anything like this before, didn't expect to ever get something like that. But if you're going to do business with people, you ought to do it in a squeaky clean and honorable fashion. You know, you're taking money out of somebody's pocket if they're stopped. You ought not to take any more than is really authorized. So I was kind of happy about that. We don't see something like that come through very often. Our officers usually are pretty good about getting the right amount on the penalty assessments. We got some new officers. It could have been that he was unfamiliar with the amount of the fine. It could have been just math in public, who knows. But anyway, Kathy caught it and got that taken care of. A couple of the folks in here were at the Cornerstone laying. I don't know if any of you all, James, I know you were there. Some of the other folks, Nicole, I know you were there. The Cornerstone laying on what's going to be become the new courthouse. Really appreciated the good turnout by everybody. And I think, given some of the dismal things that have happened, a couple of them just within the last few days, that Americans need to kind of pull together, and it was nice to see various groups show up at that Cornerstone Landing. We had counselors, we had a lot of citizens, we had Masons, obviously, we had Lions, we had Rotarians, Elks, Chamber of Commerce was there. So it was nice to have everybody turn out and have something that we can all agree on, because we don't agree on much, including which way the sun comes up in the morning, but this was nice. So I appreciate everybody that turned out. Councilor Abrams, this is kind of an item for you, but really for everybody else here too. Carla had approached me about whether I needed to make my report in person to the council. The answer is no, I don't. I'm required by state law to make a monthly report to the council. That can be in writing, and I've done that a few times when I haven't had anything to say. So I wanted to tell you, if we need a new paradigm for me showing up generally at the first meeting or so to make my report, I'm on board with that. I need to comply with the state law, but I don't have to be here in person to do that. Many of you that have been on the council for a while know that I've told you in the past, the reason I show up is as a courtesy to you all. I don't really work for you. I'm, part of the third branch of government, but I certainly enjoy the support that the court has been given over the years, and that's by all of the counselors, by all of the mayors. That's been a good relationship, and I want to keep that intact. So whatever you all decide to do on that, Mr. Mayor, do you all want to say, hey, you don't have to show up unless you have something to say? I think that's appropriate. But if somebody wants me to show up, if they have a question to ask me, I need to be informed of that, and then I'll plan on being here, because that's a matter of courtesy and respect towards the governing body. So I don't know how you all want to work that, maybe talk it over and come up with whatever you want. What I'm going to plan on doing now, sir, I think for your information, is I'm going to plan on not showing up at these meetings. I'll give you a written report if I've got something that can be easily conveyed with a paragraph or two. I'll include that in the report. If it's, certainly if I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to show up, because I don't like doing that anyway. That fits with my desires. Does that work for everybody?
We certainly enjoy your company, sir.
Oh, I'm sure you do. It's not like having Joe here, though, is it?
Well, comic relief is comic relief.
I'm not sure I know how to take that there, Counselor. Okay. Anybody have any questions for me? Sir?
Well, it's up to you, kind of. If you want to keep coming, that's, strictly up to you. But
Yeah, I'll show up if I have something to say, something that can't be conveyed in writing. But I know, I think your idea of trying to expedite the meetings probably has some merit, not just for the council and the mayor and the staff, but also for people sitting here in the audience wanting to keep it moving along. So I'll do my part on that. If you want me to show up, tell me and I'll be here. If not, you've seen the last of Knuckles fight. I'm going to go home and do something else tonight.
And I'm so sorry, that roast was wonderful.
It's so wrong, Rita Loy. Anybody else?
that's it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Judge. I'll entertain a motion on the judge's report for September.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the report from the judge for the month of September 2017.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve acceptance of the Judge White's report for the month of September 2017. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Next item is discussion items, public comment of general matters. First up is Linda Berg.
I'll just keep it short and sweet. The people have been asking about the opening for the Comfort Suites, and I've spoken with the owner, and it looks as though it'll be probably the next couple of weeks before they get open, and we will do an official ribbon cutting probably sometime in November. So once I have an official date, I'll get in touch with the council and the mayor, and hopefully y'all can come out and support that. We do have a couple of upcoming events on October the 19th. is our normal monthly meeting for the chamber, and our speaker this month is coming out from Albuquerque from Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and that's an organization that offers free resources to help local and small businesses to gain government contracts. So we're hopeful that some of our members or even prospective members might come out and listen and find a new way to grow some of the economy out here a little bit too. So that's on October the 19th. And then on October the 21st, which is a Saturday, we have our annual Best in Clays and Pumpkins event, which is networking, team building, and just fun, but it's really golf with a shotgun. Normal chambers do golf tournaments. We're not a normal chamber. We don't live in a normal community, so we do sporting clays instead. So if any of you are available to come out, we'd love to have you join us for that. And details on all of the above are on our website. So can I answer any questions for anyone? Great, thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Next up is Tappan Mahoney.
Mayor and Council, I guess you can guess what I'm here for. Status of the wastewater service, actually 1906, Highway 333. Contrary to what may have been put in the newspaper, I just want to make sure the location was clear based on the application that was submitted. Last meeting, Mayor, you had made a comment that there was a number of requests for service, and I'm just going to ask a few questions directly. Has the town received any other applications, formal applications for wastewater service besides that of ours on 1906-333 preceding our application?
Don't know on that. Have you had a chance to go in and see staff?
I received communication from the staff, and I told them, I said if we needed to meet, I was available, and didn't hear back. And my inquiries, again, are the same each and every meeting. Last meeting, there was a presentation made, which I'll get to in a minute, but I'm going through the questions that I have prepared because y'all accepted some meeting minutes tonight, and I had some specific questions regarding what you guys accepted. So you're not sure if you have any other applications for service besides ours?
I'm not. There's
Okay.
been some stuff that's come in and out. I don't know just what's there. Again, if you've had a chance to go in and see staff, they could probably
I'm sorry.
answer your questions.
The next question I had is there was a specific question that was asked by Councilor Abrams regarding, Mayor, your ownership of the property regarding the planned sewer line extension project, and I noticed it was not identified in the record of the minutes tonight.
That was me who made that, not
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor
Sorry,
Abraham.
Abraham. And that was just not in the minutes, and just if that was omitted erroneously. But please make note that I'm inquiring why it was not in my questions tonight, public comment section. And then, obviously, since the last meeting, there was a presentation made. Does the town have any further information regarding the, well repeated, but the inquiries that we've had regarding the design of sewer service to 1906 Highway 333?
Have we had any other
Do you have any other
inquiries
information on the status?
on the status? No. What Cody told us there the other night, it's about as far as that's went. He went elk hunting or deer hunting.
So, the previous comments, and just like tonight, led us to believe you didn't know anything, but we have, it looks like from the public records requests that we submitted, and we acknowledged we had last meeting. You guys actually had a meeting on March 3rd. Mayor, yourself, Juan Torres, Carlos Salazar were all in attendance, in which the scope of the design was discussed. There was 3 progress meetings that were conducted
Yeah.
since then, and there was a design meeting in which you 3 again attended prior to my initial inquiries on the status. Mr. Sipes has since did a presentation to indicate that the status is, it's identified as Phase 6, based upon the outline. But my point of this is that why is it that when I inquired of the status, I was told you did not know when, in fact, there was 5 meetings preceding my inquiry where you did?
Mayor, Council, Mr. Mahoney, if I may, that is for a design, not construction. That is all we are doing with this, those are proposed phases. They are, once again, design, they are not construction.
And that is my inquiry, Mr. Torres. That has been my inquiry.
We are not planning anything other than design at this moment.
Exactly. But my inquiry again, and has been documented in writing, and I've asked in writing, where's the design stand for the service to our property? And prior to my inquiries, you had 5 meetings on the matter, but when I inquired, I had no response. It wasn't until my public records request that I got this information. I understand you're in the design stage, and that's exactly what my inquiries state. I'm just asking, why wasn't I informed when I made the initial inquiry that it was Phase 6?
When did you make the inquiry?
September 28th?
That was your IPRA request?
I'd have to look and see when it was, September 28th?
But I mean, that's what you're talking about, your IPRA request?
Yes.
And you're wondering why we didn't tell you prior to that?
In March or April
Did
or
you
May.
Did you make an IPRA request in March or April?
That's what no, I did not. I made it in September. But you had these meetings where you knew where the project stood in March and April and May and since then. Again, 5 meetings from the public records request where you guys have identified the scope of the project. And I'm just simply asking, I don't need these again. Here's all the meetings. Kickoff meeting, if you would like to see those down. Mayor, please. Kickoff meetings, progress meetings, a design status meeting, 5 meetings right there. 2 of which you all were in attendance, all of which are addressed to mayor and council, care of Mr. Torres. I'm just curious if there's a reason why we're not being informed of the status of our application when we paid for the service.
I have questions also, because I did send...
Counselor, this is public comment. Let him finish his talking.
That was it. If there's not an answer again at another meeting, or do I have one?
I don't know. I haven't seen the stuff. Got held up down there.
Okay.
So your question then is, you wanted to know about these meetings in March?
No, my inquiry was the status of the design for the sewer service to 1906-333. I've made the request at 3 prior meetings. So if I do my calculations right, you meet twice a month, so that would put us early September. Between the first and the second meeting, I did a public records request. In that request, I got that, part of that is the information I received.
Okay.
In that information, it is clear you were aware of the status of the project as early as March, because it talks in there, yourself, Juan Torres, and Carlos Salazar, attending 2 meetings and receiving 3 additional progress reports.
And the status is the same. It's under design. I mean, I can't tell you any more than that. It's under design.
Okay, my question is, I'm going further to say, why didn't I get this 3 meetings ago? I had to go through the public records request to find this out.
Well, I think we told you 3 meetings ago to go talk to staff and see if they could give you any of this information.
That is not correct.
Okay.
So I'll leave it at that, Mayor. And then here's another request for public records, Mr. Torres. Thank you for your time.
Does anybody else wish to speak?
Mayor and Council, I wanted to give you an update on the research I did since the last meeting, and I will be taking that to Ms. Mortensen when, now that you're back and I've had some time to do things. We were talking about the performance-based setback section that's in the current zoning ordinance. I did a little bit of research on this, and what is there does not really qualify as truly performance-based. There are some missing parts. I do think, though, that it is something that is worth pursuing, but I think calling it a different name would probably be something to do. But a little bit of history about the performance-based setbacks. They were very popular about 10, 15 years ago because they were thought to be more flexible. What they work out is they're not like typical zoning ordinances. They're more like covenants, except that the government enforces them, not private HOAs. They seem to have a lot of promise, but they were very unpopular with the public because there aren't any set standards for them. And so there was a lot of confusion with them. there are very high overhead costs for staff to maintain them. So that can be a difficulty. What I found is that quite a few communities that went all in for performance-based zoning backed out of it a few years later, but has been fairly common to keep a hybrid form of this. So for Councilor Abrams, if you do ever decide to pursue the Tech Park Light Industrial, that might be a good candidate for doing a performance-based zone for a specifically defined geographic area. I think that for Edgewood, that's probably a decade at least out. I don't know that we're ready for it yet. However, the section that is in the zoning ordinance now could be utilized for a zero lot line incentive program, which would basically allow you to set up a trade-off between allowing a developer to move buildings up to, within what are traditionally known as setbacks where you can't build, in exchange for different parking configurations, because the typical thing that you're going to receive from a developer is a building surrounded by parking. And this just reverses the process. And one of the benefits to that is that it improves walkability. It's suitable mainly for commercial areas, but also for multifamily housing. So that allows you to improve walkability and not get this effect of a sea of cars all up and down the streets. And as I said at the last meeting, one of the things that we've heard over the years from people, and I agree, is I don't want Edgewood to look like Juan Dubois or Eubank as we build out the commercial. And I think that this has some possibilities. And I first got interested in this at a COG meeting, and Sandy Geiser was running that meeting. So I think she and Maida might be able to give us a little language. I think this section could be tweaked very simply, and you wouldn't even have to move it. Just refer to the variances, because it is a type of variance. That's all I had to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Anybody else like to speak? Okay, we'll move on then. Next item is a presentation here, wastewater treatment plant technical analysis memorandum. Ed, you want to come up?
Mr. Mayor, is there a way to make my chair stand upright? It's leaning. I don't know how to work it.
Well, there's nothing back there.
I don't want to drop you either, because I don't want to grab the wrong one. It's one of
How-
those levers.
How about I back it out?
The back one is not the one. It's the very back one.
It's up and down. There's one farther back. Down. That one. You push it down, stand up the chair, and then lock this. Then the back one back.
That one raises.
I think there's need for driver.
She's going back.
Yeah, I don't want to lay down anymore. I'm laying down on the job.
So try that one more. It's locked back. So
You can try mine if you want, if it's a driver issue.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I do want to go down now. My legs are down, so how do I go down?
There's a, right here, right behind the arm, there's a lever. You know, you pull up on it, and it'll go down quickly.
That's good, right there. Now I can put my feet on the floor.
the USB is in there. That one.
What happened?
One more time.
Why did we not require all businesses to connect? Why, if we put residential, are we going to require them to connect right away within 6 months?
I was shocked when I learned that it was designed
Probably have to install a driver.
It was not designed for residential. But now they're saying it is not designed for commercial.
Okay.
Why did we ask the business, why did we make them connect? Was there a reason why?
We do need Smiths and Walmart.
You don't have it on there?
I think, but it's all up and down that corner. Cars are- Yeah.
But there was no reason, was there an ordinance or a?
I don't know. I was so new on the council at the time. It was almost a feat accomplished. So, when I asked Karen, I said, well, this subdivision right here would come on. She said, it wasn't designed for residential. So, Chuck, I think, was on that board. But they got that thing in their teeth, the bit in their teeth, and ran with it, Hoffman. And then we realized what had happened, but what was the name of? Shoot, I can't remember the guy up here in Squirrels that was working for an engineering firm. And he was awarded to his engineering. So he was awarded. You know, that was a sterling. Administration is what I meant to say.
I guess we're not having a PowerPoint, guys. I don't know what is happening here.
It feels like the air conditioners. Is it just got colder?
One more try. One more try. Apologize.
Let's take 5 minutes and give him a little time to work on that.
To say, to see the back, how you do.
I'm doing much better. I'm shocked. This is the wastewater. 3 weeks from surgery.
Is it working, Joe? Ed, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Apologize there, Mayor and Council, for that. My name is Ed Dubois with HER Engineering out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Also have Bill Zimmerman with us from Albuquerque as well. He lives in Edgewood here, and he's been with HER since 1993 and wrote the New Mexico, or organized the New Mexico wastewater regulations from 2003.
So we're here today to talk about the Town of Edgewood wastewater treatment facility technical memo. And here's a little brief about HDR. HDR is a 100-year-old company. We have 10,000 staff throughout the country. We have 50 people in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And we're multidisciplined, meaning we have experts in basically every category between water, wastewater, and architecture and everything else. We're 5th in the country in water and wastewater. Like I said, myself is Ed DuBois, project manager. I have Bill Zimmerman. He's vice president and a senior technical advisor for HDR. Wade Chacon also worked on this project. And then Mike Falk is our PhD. He does the process engineering. We've completed over 20 wastewater treatment plants throughout New Mexico, from smaller ones in Logan and Tucumcari and Santa Rosa to large ones for Albuquerque, Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority, Farmington, Roswell, Carlsbad, quite a few throughout the state. As a company, we've done more than 1,000 throughout the United States.
I have a question. Do you have any that are like ours?
MBRs, correct, yes.
Okay.
We do. We're just doing one for Santa Fe County right now, just right up the road at the prison. So here's a little brief of your own wastewater treatment plant. It's an existing MBR. So an MBR is a membrane bioreactor. That's just a type of process that treats the wastewater. It got constructed in 2008. It went online in 2010. The effluent is meeting the permit. You have really good results, actually. Very, very good. It actually meets Class 1A, which is the lowest in the state. But there are some problems, some O&M problems, operation and maintenance with the membranes, and there's been some replacement of those membranes. And then the fine screens and the UV are offline. There was a tech memo in January of 2014 that listed several of these problems that are still out there. Unfortunately, some of those recommendations were not implemented in 2014. The wastewater ordinance was passed in 2016, and I'll get talk about that here in just a little bit, because that is definitely related. And then there was a treatment plant, PER, that was completed in January 2017 that did a complete new treatment process, center pivot, sprinkler system, a new UV, a new screw press. So it was a kind of a larger project that looked at it. And that was in January of this year. This is just a quick little picture of an MBR. That's basically what the filter that go in the membranes. That's the membranes that go in the basin. That's basically what that is. And that's what's being replaced, are those membranes that are inside of them. Jump. Okay, so the existing treatment plant, it's basically about 30,000 gallons a day. That's what's happening right now. So the design flow is 150,000 gallons a day, and then the MBR itself is equipped for 56,000 gallons. And then it can expand to 112,000, and it can expand to 150,000. I think there's been some expansion just as of recent. So there's 52 businesses connected without residential right now. The new hotel, which will have 80 or 88 rooms, that's basically 100 gallons per day per room, fully equipped or fully booked, and that's 8,000 gallons per day. So that hotel will make a difference. It will basically dilute some of these concentrations that we'll get into. The residential, the sewer collection system that'll connect multiple residents. Right now, that's 20 residents in this next year here. That'll basically add another 6,000 gallons per day for it. Okay, so some of the influent data. So the influence is what the actual wastewater coming into the plant, testing what those results are. So basically what we did, we had a company come in and they tested over the weekend in the middle of June. We got those results back in the middle of July, and then kind of analyzed them with all the other existing data that we had the last several years. And then basically what you can see is some of these, and these are just different categories, and I won't get into the specifics of them, but basically the middle category is what's typical in New Mexico, and you can see all your influent results are almost double what's typical. Strong is on the right side, that's like an industrial strength kind of thing, and you're stronger than that as well. And that basically, those higher concentrations are because there's not residential connected. It's restaurants and it's commercial facilities that are connected. And basically so it's a stronger waste load that's happening instead of the residential. So that's really what's contributing to those higher results. Now the TDS, everybody knows with wells and things, that's just here in this area of New Mexico. We have high TDS, and that's not going to come into with the treatment plant. On that same note, the sewer ordinance is, so comparing those same results with the ordinance limit, all those things right now are exceeding. Now, we had some specific testing done that was done 2 years ago that I was provided with the town, and there's multiple places that are individual businesses that are 3 times that limit of what their ordinance is right now. And basically, from HDR's recommendation that the town needs to enforce the wastewater ordinance. What it's doing is it's making this concentration so much more stronger. And really, if every restaurant and commercial business followed their ordinance, you would see a lot lower concentrations, and which then hurts the operation and maintenance of the treatment plant. So this is completely typical throughout New Mexico, is to find violators for their high concentration. That is in your ordinance that was approved in February of 2016. So that's one of our recommendations. Also with grease traps, to make sure that they are installed on all restaurants, that they're also maintained. That's also in the ordinance. And then there's connection manholes for testing, that the town can actually go out there, and in the ordinance there's a manhole for every commercial business, and they can go and test that and see exactly who is violating and who is in compliance with the ordinance. Okay, so the effluent is the treated wastewater at the end of the plant, so that's after it goes through the treatment process. So right now, you are Class 1A through the NMED, so that's the lowest type of reuse. So there's basically no restrictions on the reuse. You can put it basically wherever you want to put it. The requirements are on the left here, and your results, as you can see, are very good. I mean, they're really some of the best in New Mexico. There's not that many places that meet 1A. A lot can meet 1B, but not too many meet 1A. Like I said, Class 1A has no access control, so that means there's not gates or fences or barbed wire or anything like that. And then there's no setback, so you can water a park right next to a house or anything with 1A. Now, that being said, what you're currently using, the wastewater, the treated reuse, the effluent, is only Class 2. So Class 2 is dust control, construction water, irrigation of town-owned land, basically right next to the treatment plant right now. That's what Class 2 is right now. Now, I put 1B and Class 2 on there. You have an MBR, so the MBR can meet 1A pretty good. But you can also lower that if you want to. And basically, it just eases up some of the reuse requirements on the treatment plant. Depending on what you want to do, if you do that, though, now you have a 100-foot setback from a house. So if you are using dust control, you have to be 100 foot from the house. You can still do irrigation of parks, schoolyards. 1B is the most common throughout New Mexico. All the school fields, golf courses, everything gets irrigated with 1B. There's no fences required or anything like that. If you would go to a Class 2, then you would need a 4-strand barbed wire. So if that was just going to go next to the treatment plant, you could lower that down to a Class 2 and use barbed wire. If you wanted to put fields by the treatment plant and put some soccer fields, then you would have to keep that 1B for the kids and everybody to play on it. If you did want to modify the groundwater discharge permit at some time, that's $2,300 through NMED. Now that permit was enacted on September of 2015, so it goes through September 2020. They don't have to do anything with it at all right now. Some of the existing conditions of the plant, for the most part, it's fairly new in wastewater terms. One of the main things is the fine screens are not in operation. So basically, the screens grab all the solids that come in that don't break down. And they're both in our HDR and the manufacturer as well. They've never seen an MBR at all work without screens, so they're actually surprised that it's working this well without a screen. But what it's doing, all those things are coming in and hurting that membrane more, and that's leading to the faster replacement. So basically, a lot of the basins are good, but the membranes are the main thing. They're basically failing every 1 to 2 years, and when they should be 5 to 7, Rio Rancho has 10 years right now. So that's one of the things, and that's, if you replaced all the membranes you have right now, that's $48,000. So that's just to keep that in mind. A lot of other items are pretty good. The UV is offline, but at some point you guys went to sodium hypochlorite. That's for the disinfection. That's working well. You're meeting the permit well. So we don't see any change in that. Same thing with the solids handling, that you're hauling solids to Estancia Valley. We would continue with that as well. In terms of the effluent reuse disposal. So right now, there's one 7.5 million gallon pond that's right next to the wastewater treatment plant, and it's almost full right now. And there's been some activity this summer to kind of pump some of that down. But that's one of the big things that needs to occur. At one point, there was snowmaking that was happening, just trying to get rid of some of that water. Unfortunately, the snowmaking piece of equipment failed. And basically what that existing pond is it holds up to 50,000 gallons per day for winter storage. So during the 4 months that you cannot irrigate, it holds the wastewater, or the reuse effluent. And then basically every 50,000 gallons, you actually have to build another pond. So back on the original plans from the 2008, there's actually three ponds up to the 150,000 gallon capacity. So basically, putting what you have now as the flow plus these new flows of the 20 houses and the hotel, you're at basically 44,000 gallons. So you have to deal with 16 million gallons a year, basically. But the pond is already full right now. So that first year, if a system went online, it would have to pump out 115,000 gallons a day to get rid of what's in the pond now, and then as it comes. It would then lower to 78,000 gallons a day going into the future. In terms of NMED requirements, their main requirement is nitrogen loading. So they determine how much water, how many pounds of nitrogen you can put on an acre. And basically that's 200 pounds per acre per year. Your current permit nitrogen is 10 milligrams per liter. Well, so when you do the math, it basically works out that the 44, so the current or soon-to-be future flow here in another couple of months or so, the 44,000 gallons would require 6.7 acres of irrigation with no crops. Now, if you put crops on it, that actually has a nitrogen uptake, so you can actually get smaller than that. But we're just looking at no crops right now. So you're throwing water out on the ground. It's going into the ground. That's what the groundwater discharge permit does. For the final, for what the design capacity is of 150,000 gallons, that would require 22.8 acres. Now, there's 41 acres that the treatment plant sits on right now. So to the east of it, from where there's a spoils pile, there's still 15 acres that you could lay out. You could lay out a nice hand move aluminum or permanent irrigation sprinkler system, or something like a center pivot as well. So there is room right there to install the irrigation at this place. Now, that wouldn't take away what's happening right now, where you can come up and get a 2,000 gallon tanker can come up and he can fill up with construction water. That wouldn't stop that at all, because that's such a small amount. So basically what we did, per the NMED, we looked at 5 alternatives. with one being improve the existing MBR. Then we looked at conventional activated sludge technology, a sequencing batch reactor, extended aeration, and an IFAS system. So there's multiple, and I'm not going to get into the details. It gets a little too specific and technical there with them. But we basically, we take all your info, your flows, and then we run and model it and then size everything and then see how it works with what you have and the basin sizes that you have, the blowers and everything from there. The main thing, so taking out the number one, the fixing one, is a lot of these other systems require new major components. And that's why the costs are so much higher. So so for alternative two, it basically, the MBR, what's great about the MBR is it makes a small basin. So the basin is the concrete basin that's 20 by 20 by 15 foot deep. Well, when you use some other technology, that has to quadruple the size of that. So in any of these other technologies, we would actually have to go out there and build more concrete structures. And that's where the cost. You have to equip it, obviously, but that's where the cost is. So for the majority of them, it's add a basin size, a secondary clarifier.
Can you take a question?
Sure, absolutely.
You understand the hardness of our water, though?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, so the TDS is a good point. The TDS is going to be a problem with basically any system that happens. It will affect the membranes more. So in terms of, it won't make, basically, if we can do some modifications, you'd be able to extend the life of the membranes more than what's happening currently. And I'll get into that in a second. But basically, all these options, there's one that's a biolac where you kind of walk away from what the existing plant is and you build a new plant in the existing pond, which is actually, that's pretty cheap. However, you'd then have to build more ponds, you'd still have to build a clarifier and a digester. And the MBR basically combines all those things into a smaller footprint. So basically, all the alternatives other than fix the existing MBR is going to require new construction of major components. So no matter what alternative you'd look at, separate of fix the MBR, major components. And that's in that big range of $4 to $7 million on top of whatever the general improvements are. And that's basically why we've eliminated those options. So all the treatment options require these general improvements. All treatment plants have screens. So you need a core screen, you need some grit removal. Now the MBR requires a fine screen. So there's an extra $300,000 that the MBR requires that other treatments would not require. However, you still don't have to build large basins in terms of it. So for that $300,000, it offsets that $4 to $7 million. In any option, there's a new effluent reuse disposal system, no matter what option we would go through. And then a concrete compost pad to help in some of the solids handling. So I kind of jumped the gun, but basically the proposed project, what HDR would recommend is to improve the existing MBR. You've already spent that money, the $10 million that happened 10 years ago, basically, and went online in 2010. You've invested into that capital there. We think we can improve the existing system by installing a 6mm core screen to 2mm, and that's the actual size of the screen, and installation of grit removal. And some of those things can be phased. The 2mm screens, we would recommend that right now. As soon as funding would come through, we would recommend that right now. We would recommend, though, all of those things, but they could happen independently pending funding or phasing. We would implement a strict maintenance schedule for the membranes. Now, that's one of the things the manufacturer's representative will be out here in a couple weeks, and we're going to go over some of those things with them. Those new membranes, like I mentioned earlier, are $48,000, and hopefully you would make that a whole lot less. So instead of 1 to 2 years, push that to 3 to 5 years. And so you're only doing those membranes every so often, not nearly to what they're doing right now. Installation of pump and reuse sprinkler system, we talked about doing a hand move or a permanent instead of a center pivot, and then basically you applying that to that land that I already mentioned, that's east of the treatment plant, east of the reuse pond right now. An installation of an additional blower that'll add some more capability, capacity, and some operational ability to control the plant. The concrete composting pad, and then we'll get a little more fine-tuned on some of the other modifications. There's rumors of some control issues and different things like that, and once we would get into those things, we have that as kind of a contingency in there. This is just a quick little configuration of what it would look like, just schematically, but basically the plant comes in, it's pumped in, it would go to a grit removal, it would go to a coarse screen, it would go to a fine screen, and then it would go to the actual MBR. So the actual basins of the MBR would not be modified. So it's just adding some equipment beforehand. And then this is basically what we're talking about in terms of cost. This is everything kind of thrown in right now of fixing the MBR, or at least what we estimate. So the headworks, which has 2 fine screens, a coarse, and a grit removal, that's about $650,000 right now. So that could be a phased project first. There's some MBR, some modifications. That includes like the new blower in there, a compost pad, the disposal system, that could happen. That could happen independently. You could fix that right now and install that whole system right now. So basically, ballpark, we're about $2.1 million. With the exception of the fine screens, which were the 300 grand, so you would have to make these improvements in addition to building all the other basins if we use the different technology. So basically, it's like 1.8 million on top of the $4 to $7 million on building the other basins. So that's pretty much our recommendation, is that you keep the existing MBR and you fix it. So some of the next steps, at least for us, we're going to meet with the manufacturer's rep this month, finalize the tech memo that's in association with this presentation, why we're doing this. We would recommend the town to enforce the wastewater ordinance, and then obviously funding is a huge issue no matter what, but basically go after some different funding, try to find some different monies that we could get and phase this and make these improvements work. And then if the town wanted to, you could change the groundwater discharge permit as well. Sure.
I have a
Counselor.
question. So as far as finding funding, would you help identify those sources?
Yes, between NMED, USDA, Water Trust Board, things like that. I mean, all those are limited right now. Capital outlay, there was basically no capital outlay. There was basically no Water Trust Board. Hopefully it's a better year next year. USDA always has some grant money in association. NMED, which I don't want to speak for NMED, but I'm sure that they would gladly give a loan to at any time as well.
Thank you.
Council have any other questions for Ed?
Wow. You know, that's an awful lot of information to try to absorb. The pre-treatment, of course, is something we've looked at. So I think I understand that part. Somehow what was the limit on the loans that we might get that we're aware of?
That I'm not sure of off the top of my head.
Okay, at one time, we had proposed doing like a reuse line over to the soccer fields and stuff like that. Did you look at that at all?
We did not. We did not, I mean, that's still something that you, the quality of water you have right now, that absolutely could happen though. But in terms of money, it would still be significant. I don't know what that length of line would be, but it's definitely a possibility that could happen.
So you're saying though, on that land that we have, we could do soccer fields out there and use this to irrigate that?
Sure, I mean, that, it happens a lot. You know, basically pumping that water far away is expensive. So a lot of treatment plants, there's agricultural land or there's some kind of field that you can get adjacent, and so that was just what was mentioned. So there's definitely room out there. There's 15 acres on the side of, and you wouldn't be even right next to the treatment plant. It would definitely be a couple thousand feet away from it.
And you could use that for crops?
You can use it for crops. You can use it for all crop unless the food is truly edible for 1A, unless it's human edible, unless it's exposed to the fruit. So that's per NMED. But anything else, anything of alfalfa or anything like that, you can use 1B for that.
But back to, I couldn't grow grapes there.
No, that's not allowed per NMED.
Christmas tree farm.
That's what
Sure.
I'm thinking, tree farm. But, you know, once again, you have to have the personnel, and
Yeah, now there are other communities that lease the land, and like we have in Clayton, New Mexico, they just grow grass. They have center pivots, and they're just putting water out there to meet the discharge permit, and they're just growing grass, and they have cattle out there. Now in Tucumcari, they're in partnership with New Mexico State Research Lab, and they actually do all kinds of different tests on different crops, and they lease it out to New Mexico State, who then grows crops with the reuse water. You could also use a farmer. A farmer could lease that land. You could lease that, and they could run it and grow anything with that as well. That's definitely happening more and more. It's happening in our Roswell project as well. And then we have a Carlsbad reuse where we take it and we take it to all the parks, all along the Pecos River right there. That's going to be, we're taking all of that, all fresh water out, and all reuse water is going in.
So could we create our own acequia for people to use the water?
Yeah, so that absolutely, we're doing that in Deming. We're going to make a 5-acre pond, and it's going to be a lake. They're going to have fishing in it, and
Well, that's Roger's dream.
That's a potential too.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Mayor, Council?
Thank you, Ed.
Appreciate your time.
I do have a couple questions on this, Mayor, for you and staff. It says 52 businesses are connected. So when I was talking to Carla, I understand that not all businesses on the corridor are connected, and I was wondering why. I mean, if we're going to require our residents to hook up within 60 days, what kind of reason are businesses giving for not hooking up?
Mayor, Council?
I don't know, and I guess that's an answer. The question I would kind of ask you guys, you passed an ordinance that required them to connect. Do you know why they weren't required to connect?
That was prior to me.
Because I don't know why there are businesses along Sir Lane that are not connected. I do not know why the ordinance was not enforced at that time.
I don't know either. I mean, some of this stuff predates all of us.
And so I think that might be something we would need to look at before we force our residents, who currently also have private septic systems that are functioning.
Mayor, Council,
To hook up.
so that is our intention unless the governing body wishes to change the ordinance. We are planning to enforce it, and whenever sewer service becomes available, to make everyone follow the ordinance, business or private residence, aside. The ordinance states if it's within 200 feet of the property line that they have to connect, so we're going to try and enforce that.
I think it's 150.
Or 150.
Well, I was new to the council when this, the final plans were awarded, and then it took 2 years to get it online, which put us beyond our warranty. And I remember asking planning and zoning about residential use, and I was told at that time that this was really designed for commercial, or at least the plan was for commercial. And then we're learning that the design was for residential. And I'm too confused because I was new when this happened.
Were you on council, Council Abrams? Did we do like a moratorium for businesses, or?
I do not recall a moratorium on businesses, but I do recall that the original wastewater ordinance was quite lacking in many areas, and that the new one sort of took up where those lacking areas were. I do not recall any moratorium when that was passed, nor do I recall anything from the past about a moratorium for anybody. I know that the original the original corridor for the sewer lines basically put the sewer lines into the major commercial areas of town as a as a forethought. I mean, that's the idea was to have those commercial areas on the sewer system and, promote businesses and light industry to those commercial areas with the availability of sewer lines. There was always an intent to connect residents. Nobody ever said that there wasn't.
What I was told was, when I pointed out a particular subdivision, I was told, and if that comes online, it will be at full capacity.
Well, at full capacity, at what build? That's was always my question, because there's 2 basins right now, only one basin's being used. And my understanding was that the basin that was being used wasn't fully populated with the number of membrane cartridges that could possibly fit in it. And there was some discussion about why that was done originally, but honestly, I do not recall an answer to your question, Counselor.
So we've increased capacity. Did we put more membranes in that second basin?
Yes, Mayor, Council, if you recall, back in January when we had the workshop, there was that brand-new cassette that was just sitting out there. That has since been installed, and that was installed after Ed did the technical memo, or started working on it. So, the PER and it was the information that he had to go off of, and the PER was taking into account just the 3 current installed, not the 4th one. So we do have added capacity.
And we still have another basin to fill. If in the event that we expand beyond the 50,000 gallon current, I think it's actually 75,000 gallon current limit of a single basin, we can install cassettes in a whole nother basin and basically double the capacity of the facility that we currently have. I mean, we currently have a facility that could do twice what it's doing if we want to invest directly in doing that. And with all the problems and all the woes that we've had, all I can see right now is that we move forward with what we've got. This sounds like a reasonable plan. We can build out, we can build bigger. We do have to figure out what we're going to do with the effluent in the pond. That was always in question because we never really, even the snowmaking machine wasn't pumping enough of it out when that was operational.
Well, and then the cleaning of those membranes has become problematic due to the TDS. That was truly not understood when it was designed. I think it was designed in Utah or Idaho.
Mayor, council, so with respect to that, I mean, the plant is what we have, so with this latest budget, I proposed, or I put in there to essentially replace 400 or 2 cassettes worth of membranes this year, and just until we figure out what we're going to do, if we're going to keep the system, I want to try and rotate, at least rotate half of them out each year, every other year. So we are replacing them because, we know we're not going to get the 7 to 10 years out of them just because of what's our water quality. So I went ahead and just made plans to start changing them out until we figure out what we're going to do.
Have we learned how the pretreatment screens will lengthen their life? Do we have any idea?
Well, Mayor, council, so yes, they will lengthen the life because they'll prevent stuff from coming in and just hitting the plates, and then it just tears them, and then the plates become useless.
We've heard anecdotally from several different people, Fred and them, all said you need something up there in the way of screening that head works.
Yeah.
That one there can overflow it, and then the only thing you got left is Norton's old steel basket. And yeah, they've all said, you gotta clean that up, because the stuff going in there and hits them is what messes them up, plus the hardening of the water and stuff.
Yeah, Mayor, council, so EPCOR, they did let us know that, because you do get that buildup and the plates become rigid, and then you get like a mop string or something that comes in, hits it, and they say it just tears them. And you can kind of see that when you go to the plant, when they change them out, the majority of the plates have tears along the corners or kind of more the exposed areas where those things are able to get in and penetrate. I mean, because they are kind of tightly close, but, they're several millimeters wide versus, just the 2 millimeter, stuff that's being filled.
Really Lloyd's recommending like what we've seen over in Rio Rancho there, the drums.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive, and things came out almost like insulation.
Yep.
Well, all the toilet paper, everything that could went into that product.
And that's what Ed said, basically with these MBRs, you gotta be real careful cleaning the stuff up so the water can go in there and hit that without taking a lot of crud with it.
Yeah,
And
well,
that little old screw auger thingy in there is about as sorry as you could get. It is well just nearly not have anything.
I guess I would like some information such as what businesses are on the line that aren't connected, how many of those, and how many businesses do we have that have made applications that want to be connected. I know there was at least one that at one point was told there was no capacity, and I don't think has been notified that now there is capacity. I haven't spoken to them lately, but the last I heard was they were still waiting to see if we had capacity. And so, I would like to see, if there's nothing keeping the businesses from having to hook up, I think they all need to hook up. And that creates additional, like you said, additional income streams. So I would like us to...
I can provide that. I'll do the list.
Okay. And some sort of fee schedule, what we might expect the income to be once they're all connected. And then the other thing is, what is the status of an employee or employees? Or are we going to continue to work under an emergency contract? Can we either create a contract that's not an emergency contract, or are we going to ever hire employees?
The plan, I think, is still to try to hire somebody, but we wanted to kind of wait and get Ed's report here so we'd have an idea what we could tell them they'd be looking at if they come in. Like he said, he's not quite done with it. This is a good preliminary, but we wanted to kind of know what, so we could tell them what they'd be looking at.
I don't feel like as a counselor that I've been kept up to date with what's going on. I remember we talked about quarterly reports. Absolutely wastewater, I think, needs to be one of them, because I feel like I'm totally, when Carla told me, oh, we have capacity, I was totally blown away, because I didn't know that. Did you know we had capacity? Yeah? Okay. I did not, so.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of the specs for the sewer plant.
Okay.
Have kept quite close tabs on it.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I found that when I've talked to, like Mr. Webb in Rio Rancho, he was very forthcoming with information where, yes, I have a membrane system, this is how often I change the screens. But, talking to these communities that he's listed could be very helpful.
Yeah.
And you talk their language, agricultural anyway.
Well, Ed, like he said, he's got several that he's worked with, and he's
Yeah.
drawn on that expertise.
Well, I appreciate that, because there's nothing like the people in the field who know how they work, where they're subject to where their strong suit is.
So how does this tie in with the PER that we have accepted?
The PER is there, and this report, when Ed finishes it, will be going probably to EID for their review, so they can see it. They're the people that asked for this. And then we'll see from there what they either let us or direct us toward doing. But that was kind of the final, a person who was looking to get this report was EID.
And of course, they know the more technical questions to ask.
So we've moved along, but we're still not quite there yet. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Otherwise, let's move along. It's getting on up here to 8. Next item is matters from the mayor. I've got several things tonight. First item here is from Basic IDIQ from Bruce Martin. This is a cost summary for rehabbing the fire station into the new police station. And he's priced it out here. That's what we'd be looking at, more or less, to get started on that. We talked to, or have been emailing back and forth to Carmella up at NMFA, and we're also almost on the brink of being able to get their approval for the administrative stuff over to school. But this one here is pretty much ready to go, and then, of course, when they get done with that, they move to the current police station to work on making it into the new town court. Not magistrate, but just town court. So that's informational there. The next item I have is we have been contacted, and I'm just alerting council to this, and of course anybody else, but we have a possible date for a groundbreaking for the First Choice building over on 16. It would be November 3rd. Check your calendars, see if you can be available for that. That's a Friday. The next item that I have is Brews on Bachelors coming up this Saturday from 4 to 10. It'll be over at the soccer field. They've got several, the little breweries coming out, Santa Fe Brewing, Sierra Blanca. $5 a person, tickets are limited. They're going to have craft brew sampling and sales, food trucks, live music, games, Saturday night football on a big screen, bonfires, and vendors. So, y'all want to do something on Saturday?
Special note, The artist who did the Coyote donated it to the event so we could burn it.
Okay.
Pardon? The coyote, the big hay coyote is going to be burned that night.
Oh, I see. I saw a coyote in the park, and boy, my ears perked up.
Next thing I have, we've got a shout out here for Chief, basically. We have this niche, Places to Live, 2017 Safest Places to Live, and little bitty Edgewood's down here at number 3 Safest Place to Live in Edgewood, in New Mexico.
Yay.
We moved up from number
Kudos.
10.
Where was that printed?
We were number 10 in 2010, so we
Here's
improved.
Tularosa, number 1, Mesilla, it's 2017. Anyway, we're up to number 3. I say we're up to number 3. I assume you'll take us to number 1.
Number 1, we're working on, we moved up, it was at 17 last year, so we moved up a little ways.
Slightly older, but still a little test of where we sit in the middle of things. This one's actually from last year in 2016. And these are 12 best places in New Mexico to raise a family. And on this one here, we rolled in at number 5. Artesia, Carlsbad, Rio Rancho, and Los Alamos come in ahead of us. But anyway, that's pretty good. That ranks stuff to do, family stuff, location to Albuquerque, convenient to all that stuff. Still scores well on safety. Town is expanding rapidly, which is a good sign for the local economy. So a little dated, but still there. The other thing then is the headline in today's Independent. Might call it the Tale of Two Cities, but anyway, I like the part down here at the bottom. Edgewood spending no longer exceeds revenue. To our friends in Estancia, we're below them, but they had a lot of audit problems and they're working on getting those fixed. I believe I'd rather have that for our headline than that. So, good news there in the newspaper. And I think we all deserve a pat on the back for that one. It's been an effort by all of us. That's all I have, so next item then would be matters from the counselors. Counselor Holly.
Okay. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend MOLLE training, that's Municipal Officials Leadership Institute, and this was the governance program. And covered many different subject matters, including libraries, Open Meetings Act. But I do want to mention something that I learned in the budgeting session. James Jimenez, who was a former DFA secretary and former Rio Rancho city manager, had said that the 3 most important issues that officials have to deal with are approving the budget, hiring a clerk, and land use issues. And I thought, boy, here tonight, you know, we've made the front page of the paper about our budget, and that interview happened with our clerk, who's really done a good job of guiding us, I think, in keeping things on track. And then finally, we were here for a joint workshop, you know, for our new subdivision ordinance. So looking forward to additional trainings in the future. I've also signed up to participate in our Edgewood Citizens Police Academy, and last week was my first attendance at this 10-week program. And I've got to say already, I highly recommend it to all of us. I'm looking at it as I want to get to know our police force better, and I also want to get to know the issues that they're dealing with in our community. And honestly, first program was an eye-opener already, so I don't know what else I'm in for. But thank you for the time and the preparation that's gone into this. I think it'll be real valuable. And another thing I was thinking about last week when we had our last council meeting, Councilor Simmons had talked about the lack of participation in our county election and how disappointing that was. And I was thinking, you know, we are going to have a municipal election coming up in the spring, and we've annexed a whole lot of residents in who've never had the opportunity to vote in our municipal election. So I kind of wanted to give staff a, you know, let's do a heads up, and as we get information pulled together for that next election, make sure we've got it on our website. And I thought already it might be a good idea to have a link to the county clerk's office so we can let people know how to register if they're not already registered. Because the big, sorry, just a second, the big thing that I heard in working the polls for the last election was we didn't know, you know, that there was even an election going on. So I want to make sure that we're letting our community know what's happening.
Mayor, the governing body, when we sent out the letters for the infill annexation, we also included information about the upcoming electoral events and how they could register and also vote in their areas and stuff.
Okay.
So, and that will be also on the website coming up.
Great.
Good show.
And finally, just a reminder to the council, I think we all had received an email from Scout Leader Toby Tibbetts about meeting with his scouts. So just a reminder, 6 o'clock at the next meeting. They're going to be here before we get started so we can have some dialogue to help them work on their merit badge. That's it.
Thank you. Counselor Abraham?
I don't have anything.
Counselor Simmons?
Well, I would share with you what that wonderful card that everybody sent to me, and I appreciated it so much. The flowers were lovely. I would love to recite what the mayor said. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your good wishes.
You're welcome. Counselor Abrams?
Really don't have much of anything this evening.
Fair enough. Next item is matters from the clerk treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Mayor, council, so upcoming next week is, we have our audit for the next year, so, or for this previous year. If you're in the office and you happen to see Dora, please thank her and tell her she's doing a wonderful job, because she is. You know, we've been providing the auditors all the early information, and she's just gearing up for next week and any questions they might have. But yeah, if you're in the office, just let her know she's doing a good job and thank her.
Will do.
Also, Carla and I will be a little bit scarce this month. We'll be in training the week of the 16th, clerk school. The week following is the infrastructure conference, and then the week after that will be election school. So I apologize in advance if we're a little bit delayed in responding to any inquiries or requests. But yeah, requirements, and we have to attend those. So, and that is all I have.
Anything else? Okay. Next item then is an action item, and it's the public hearing continued here, quasi-judicial procedure. This is a continuation of a quasi-judicial hearing that was first heard at the regular council meeting on Wednesday, December 21st, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. and was continued to the regular council meeting Wednesday, August 2nd, 2017 at 6:30 p.m., which continued and will be heard tonight. To consider an appeal of a denial of a minor subdivision for property located at Woods End Ranch on Woodline Drive, being tract P-1-R-I-B, Section 21, Township 10 North, Range 7 East, NMPM, Town of Edgewood, New Mexico. Mr. Jonathan Pillars is the applicant appellant. So let me get my little script out here. So the procedural guidelines. Need notice certification that public notice of this hearing has been posted as required.
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Next item, this case is being heard under provisions required by the New Mexico Court of Appeals intended to protect the rights of all parties to the proceedings. Requirements include the identification of all parties and their witnesses and the swearing in of all parties giving testimony. The affected parties will have the right to cross-examine persons giving testimony. Next item is confirmation of no conflicts of interest or ex parte contact. Each member of the governing body shall give confirmation.
Mr. Mayor, I've had no ex parte communications, nor do I have any
Conflict?
conflict.
Councilor Simmons?
I assure you I've had no conflict of interest or ex parte communication.
Thank you. Counselor Abraham.
I have no conflict of interest and I have no ex parte communication.
I have a question for you, Counselor Abraham. You had mentioned that you'd made an individual site visit out there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you happen to meet with the applicant or anybody?
I did not. I met with a neighbor who was out there walking his dog, who happened to say that he hoped it stayed that way so he could walk his dog there. I told him that, the applicant probably had better use for the land than his neighbor's dog walking.
Did you discuss the merits of the case with him?
I did not.
This is one of the issues with an individual site visit like that. I didn't know you were taking them. You said in your email that you've taken them a number of times on other matters.
Not P&Z matters, but like when we had the gate issue, I drove by to see what the gate looked like.
Features?
Yeah, anytime there's something that comes up, I go out and at least make myself aware of what the situation looks like.
I think we're going to need to develop us a site visit policy. Anyway, Councilor Holly?
I have no conflict of interest, nor have I had ex parte communication.
And for Mayor Bassett, I can confirm I have no conflicts of interest or have had any ex parte contacts. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Therefore, I would like to ask if there's anyone present who objects to the participation of any member of the governing body in these proceedings. Seeing none. All persons wishing to give testimony in this hearing, please rise and be sworn in at this time.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Mortensen, could you give us a brief overview of the subject of this public hearing?
Yes, Mayor. This is a continuation of the second appeal by Jonathan Pillars heard on December 21st, 2016 to confirm that the conditions of the Town Council put in place on the road have been met. The Town of Edgewood Town Council requested a 6-inch compacted base or equivalent with all-weather surface. This included a cul-de-sac or hammerhead be put in place and a 20-foot wide road. Because Mr. Pillars would be away for the winter, it was decided that this would be reviewed for compliance by Santa Fe County Fire Inspector and Norton Henninger, and revisited at the first August 2017 Town Council meeting. At the August 2nd, 2017 meeting, Mr. Pillars was not in attendance and had expressed that he would not be there, nor did he want to go any further with the appeal. Town Council decided to continue the appeal until September 20th, 2017 to give Mr. Pillars more time to bring the road up to Town of Edgewood design standards. Due to scheduling conflicts, however, the meeting was pushed back until tonight, October 4th, 2017. We have made several attempts to invite Mr. Pillars in to finish up, and we have had no contact back from him.
And so tonight, is it ready to be heard?
Yes, it is.
Okay. The applicant obviously is not present. Mr. Audio, he's clearly not here. He hadn't been to the last one either. Could you give us some guidance on, should we go ahead and make a decision one way or the other, or what?
Because this is an appeal and an applicant's burden, if they're appealing a denial from the Planning and Zoning Commission, would be to present evidence that would persuade the council that the decision below was wrong. We kind of crossed that bridge with the prior hearing in December because the council voted to require him to do more to the land in order to comply with town requirements, basically concerning the road issues for fire compliance and for county public works requirements. So I think the appropriate action would be to receive testimony in the record of whether that was complied with from our staff, and seeing nothing else, since he's failed to appear again, I think it's appropriate then to take a vote on whether or not you believe the appeal should be denied.
Okay. Jumping ahead then. Final staff report. You went over some of this with us.
Yes, due to this road still not meeting the Town of Edgewood design standards or Santa Fe County standards for fire apparatus access, staff recommends denial of this appeal.
Council have any questions for staff? Okay. We don't have an applicant's closing summary, so is that enough? Mr. Audio?
Yes, I think the testimony of staff that the requirements were not met and those statements in the report are sufficient.
Okay. So I'll close the public portion of the hearing and take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion let's see, how does this motion need to be made? To uphold the denial? Affirm, uphold the denial.
And deny the appeal.
And deny the appeal.
Got a motion? We got a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to affirm the decision of the P&Z Commission and deny the appeal. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Start on that end. Councilor Abrams?
Aye.
Councilor Simmons?
Nay.
Councilor Abraham?
Nay.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Got a tie vote, so mayor votes aye. That's the end of that one. Let's see, the next item then is announcements and calendar review. Our next regular council meeting is October 18th, 2017, 6:30 p.m.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask, are the town offices closed Monday for Columbus Day holiday on the 9th?
I think they are, yeah. Probably should note that they will be closed on the 9th.
Quick note, P&C still having their meeting.
On the 9th?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
So there will be town business conducted that day.
Future agenda items, October 18th, public hearing zoning ordinance. Is this one that's going to go ahead? The number A here?
Yeah.
But on number B,
No, he's still moving.
B still moving?
Uh-huh.
The uniform
It's just
traffic.
the-
Yeah, uniform traffic code, that'll be on there on the 18th. And number C, zoning designations for the infill annexation, that one's going to be removed back to a later date in an effort to consolidate more of them so it goes through quicker. Okay, the next item then is a closed session. As promotion roll call vote pursuant to NMSA 1978, the following will be discussed in closed session. Update on threatened or pending litigation which the governing body was, is, or may become a participant. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we go into closed session to discuss pending litigation.
Got a second? Motion's been made and seconded to go into closed session. Do it with a roll call vote, starting on this end. Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilor Abrams?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go into closed session. Leave them.
Me too.
See you right back. paint bills and all those snooze the rest of the night. Got it?
I back these things up to rolls and everything else.
Which one do you want to take?
You know, just in interest of time.
Did not ever give those roads over to the HOA. He kept them in technically. If the utilities don't have the numbers to one, there is an HOA. And now
That was extra listing.
so I can
Took pictures and stuff. Can I ask now, where'd you get the bring out there? Oh, see that?
Yeah.
Good deal. I knew we moved up, they called us, we moved over to 17 or top 5, I just didn't know where we were.
It's fine.
Whatever we're doing, it's working. Crime's going down, budgets are down. 2 of them.
Okay.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kudos. Yeah, you guys are getting done. Take that back over there. Next year, we want that up there.
Move it up. It comes in around us here.
Yeah, there's no.
I wouldn't figure that's down south. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bayard and Santa Clara, they're
Crazy towns.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So there's no crossing. Too good list to be on.
Yeah, that
you
was
know.
eliminated.
You know?
This one's current. I had to look it up. This is current.
Long gone.
Yep.
Actually, I used to say.
Yeah. Is that your,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Bring it in.
I tried to get over a couple of them.
Tomorrow's gonna be boring as hell.
Yeah.
But you're on that one.
You've got some other ones you sent in the schedule or whatever.
Yeah, the traffic stops and essential shootings would be fun.
That would be
needs to be fun. This production is just some church across the front. My wife and I did something with it. Just, she won every time. Brothers, I chose church around the wall. Check it out. Just
I watched my mom, she don't really hear it. But then she came over and said, "Oh, for something."
Drive your house.
James, have a good night. Be safe. See you tomorrow.
Yours is the one on the bottom. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he came in. When I bought the new Volvo dump truck. About $8. I think I'll we need additional equipment, we need. I'm sure. All the prices together. And I have about $90,000 budget. Material. Baseboards and stuff like that. They said, that's how it says.
Yeah.
So we need money, because that's how much So we'll have 90,000 left. Last thing you did. We're very close to the end of the year, I can say that. Not spend it. We can use it for us to truck. It's funny because $160,000. They said, okay, let's do that. We'll do that. Why? We truck this year. See them trust me, 115,000. I would truck this year. We'll put that 90,000 towards it. So, okay, right. Figuring, okay, in a couple months I have a new budget. Come in and I have all the materials and stuff. Well, then you like to anticipate. That's what I could figure. Okay, well, I would get this in trouble. Get made. But it wouldn't arrive until October. And they neglected to carry that money over. So what happened is that money got lost because we put that into the general fund. And then Steve had to turn around and pull $160,000 out of my budget for the next year, which meant I had no money to work with. And they subsequently, the following year, got it again. So the last, and that's why I wrote that shape. And I tried to explain that to John and Juan. So this year they got my budget way up. I'm trying to compensate, but I don't know.
Once you get behind, it's hard to get.
Well, that's what I tried to explain to them. I said, we appreciate you guys have to do that money, but I want you to understand that this isn't going to be a protocol because it's taking 3 or 4 years to do this to me. It's going to take me 2 or 3 years to recover from this. So we'll do the best we can. I said, you can understand, you're going to be here in people's spring. I want to face all my roles. And then they do the application. I told them, I said, at that time, I calculated the base course, a couple inches on all those roads. And then some of this time to the rest, I kept telling them, well, now we're probably talking 150, 160,000. See where this road leads, and they gave me the to set my rate. So there was no kind of preparation for they just wanted to get these roads.
Well, I'm not going to mention a name to embarrass Laura, but one of the people that was so desperate to run the hell out of fighting down the Costco parking lot. A special. Probably about 6 months after she had left town. You know, she and Ray were here. But this is somebody couldn't stand her, didn't want anything to do with it, she was horrible, blah, 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 blah. And it was one.
When I first came to John, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, because I wrote terribly and stuff. So I didn't come to the
It's an expense. People will go, you know, so. Well, it's more than that. It's the fact that we only have.
Stop looking at the big picture. I know. This is.
That all sounds sad.
Fill it up and start pumping water. And all that. It's just all that water.
It's going to turn penny rise on you.
I don't.
She and I were several times.
And so, I have to church accidents, we don't always agree. She was weird.
into open session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to come back into open session. I'd like to affirm that in closed session, only the item on the agenda pending litigation was discussed, no decisions were made.
Counselor Simmons,
I so affirm.
Counselor Abraham,
I so affirm.
Counselor Holly,
I so affirm.
and Mayor Bassett, I also affirm. Next item, let's have a motion to come back into open session. Or has that all been in that same
Made the
one?
motion, so we need a second.
Okay. Got a
I
second?
thought I did.
Motion's been made and seconded to come back with the caveats we've already explained. Starting on this end, Counselor Holly,
Aye.
Counselor Abraham,
Aye.
Counselor Simmons,
Aye.
and Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is adjourned.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it.
Thought I did. Where did you take me?
Sounds weird, but we didn't.